want to welcome him and give him a warm round of applause. This is Dan Crean. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I was telling Amy, first time I ever went to Nerd Night was in 2009. It was at the Opal Divines on 6th Street, which isn't there anymore. But now I'm finally up in front of the microphone myself. So just a caveat up front, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a neuroscientist, I'm just an enthusiast in the best nerd sense. I like to sleep, and I've learned a lot about sleep, and I'm here to talk about dreams and about nightmares because we're in the month of Halloween. First of all, does anybody know who the Greek god of sleep was? What did I hear? Morpheus? Okay, that's one answer. Is there another answer? The other answer is Hypnos. This is Hypnos, or in the Roman, Somnos. Morpheus is also a correct answer. Morpheus is sometimes called he's the son of Hypnos, and he's the god of dreams. But they're both good. And the reason I mention this, I mean, dreams and nightmares and have been part of, as near as I can tell, every ancient culture was figured into their myths and legends, and it's informed, literature, and including like horror movies we just heard about, throughout all human history. So, nowadays we don't ascribe magical powers to dreams the way the ancients did, and we don't think of them as prophetic, but they're still an important part of our lives and our psychology. If you have a lot of nightmares, you're gonna be in a bad mood, and they're still interesting things, and it's still largely mysterious to science, as is much of sleep. All right. So you've all heard of REM sleep, rapid eye movement, and during the night, you spend about 20 to 25% of your time sleeping in REM. During REM, your muscles are paralyzed. Your skeletal muscles are paralyzed, so you can't move. You can breathe, but you can't move. If you ever see somebody squirming around in the bed, they're not in REM. They're in some other stage of sleep. To a first approximation, REM is where we dream. Okay, there are micro dreams and other stages of sleep, but anything cinematic, anything with a story is going to be during REM. You may have seen or even had one yourself, an electroencephalogram, EEG, where they put electrodes on the head and look at the voltage differential over time. And you get stuff, printouts like this. There's actually three kinds of sleep. There's light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. Light sleep is not represented here, but if you look at the top, it's wakefulness. Right? Oops. I don't know, this isn't working. But anyway, at the top is what a waking person, what their EEG would look like. The middle is a deep sleep. Now, obviously a huge difference. But in the bottom is REM sleep. And to the untrained eye, they look very similar to wakefulness. And in some ways, REM is like being awake. Almost. It's been shown people can remember things they heard during REM, not reliably, but they can remember. And the mental phenomena of dreaming is a lot more like waking than it is like the other stages of sleep. During the night, what happens is, it's called a hypnogram. So you get time on the horizontal axis. So you go to bed, you go to sleep, you go to stage 1 sleep, stage 2 sleep. These are called light sleep. Then you go to deep sleep, stage 3. And then you'll have a period of REM. And then you'll repeat the cycle again. Each cycle lasts more or less 90 minutes, give or take. And you'll go through 3 or 4 or 5 cycles per night. In every cycle, the deep sleep period gets shorter and shorter, and the REM sleep period gets longer and longer. So most of your dreaming is going to happen towards time when you wake up in the later part of the sleep period or early in the morning. So if you're going to have a nightmare, it's a lot more likely to happen at 5 a.m. than at midnight. It's just statistically that's what's going to happen. All nightmares are scary dreams. That's it. This is the International Classification of Sleep Disorders. It's frightening dreams which precipitate awakenings from sleep. It usually involves imminent danger or extreme embarrassment. That's all it is. Okay? At Halloween, you see a lot of stuff about skeletons and ghosts. I don't know about you. I've never had a nightmare like that. Nothing supernatural. They're always very natural things, but they're just scary. And there's nothing that much different from other dreams, except that they are, I guess to meet this clinical definition, you have to wake up because it is so scary. Sleep itself is the science of sleep. Everything is 90% of what is known has been discovered in the last 30 years. It's really, there's so many mysteries. There's still a lot of mysteries, including why we even need to sleep. I mean, there's a lot of ideas about that, but evolutionary biologists have not agreed or come to a consensus about why we develop this need to sleep the way we do. Dreams are an even bigger mystery, okay? In fact, nobody has any plausible explanation for why we dream. They're a complete mystery to science. Sigmund Freud had some psychological ideas 100 years ago, which nobody pays any attention to anymore. But the science, I've read a lot about the science of sleep, and scientists never even talk about dreams. They're just not even in there, something they even talk about. And when you get dreams, what differentiates a nightmare? I mean, why do you get nightmares? And there's really no pattern that anybody can find whatsoever. Like so much of sleep, it's a mystery. There are periods in your life where you might get more nightmares than others. I'll talk about that later. But that's just a statistical average. On any given night, you might have a nightmare, you might not, and you cannot predict. You hear people say, "Oh, I ate a bad piece of fish; it gave me nightmares." No, nobody believes that anymore. Okay. Okay, there's 2 sleep disorders I want to talk about, which are kind of related. There's like 70 sleep disorders in the medical textbook. 2 that are related. First is night terrors. These are not nightmares. Okay, they sound like nightmares. They have the same symptoms as nightmares. People wake up terrified, rapid heartbeat, breathing hard, feeling scared. But they're not nightmares. They're not dreams. They do not happen in REM. They happen in deep sleep. This confuses a lot of little kids get night terrors, and the parents will try to comfort the kid and say, "What were you dreaming about?" And the kid won't answer, and the parents think, "Oh, he's too freaked out to answer, or he's not articulate enough to answer." No, that's not why. The kid can't answer what he was dreaming about because he wasn't dreaming. And this is true. There's some adults get night terrors too, and it's the same situation. There's no narrative component. These are not nightmares. These are total mysteries. The etiology of night terrors, completely unknown. There's no treatment for them. Most little kids who have them outgrow them by age 7 or 8 or so. And they don't seem to do any long-term damage, but they're a complete mystery. Oh, I say 1 and 1. I used to say 1 and 2. But yeah, I don't know what that is. But the second is sleep paralysis. Some of you may have had this. This is a parasomnia. Parasomnia is a sleep disorder about the transition between sleeping and waking. And what happens here is it's almost like your mind wakes up and your body is still asleep. And because you're in REM, so you're paralyzed. And the brain or the mind seems to hallucinate sometimes. And it's pretty weird. Now, there's a lot of stories from pre-modern times, like the Middle Ages, where people describe being attacked at night. And very common stories about, like, they felt like a witch was sleeping on their chest. They couldn't get up. There's this pressure in their chest. A witch was sleeping on their chest. Or a succubus, which is a demon. This is, if you can see that, that's supposed to be a succubus on the victim's chest. Men often have erections during REM, so there's also a sexual component there. The succubus is, having sex with the human victim there. And a lot of stories like this, and the pre-modernists didn't have the vocabulary that we have today. These stories really look like sleep paralysis today. Now, nowadays we don't believe in succubuses anymore, but what do we believe in? Aliens. So alien abduction stories, very, very similar. If you look at some of these alien abduction stories, a lot of them have these stories about the alien had a ray that paralyzed my body, and there's all these stories that they're trying to produce an alien hybrid, human hybrid, or, So it's very, very similar stories to the ones from the Middle Ages. We've replaced the succubus with the alien. I have had sleep paralysis. I didn't have. I never thought there was an alien. I didn't really have any scary hallucination, but it was very weird, and I did get the impression there are other people in the room with me. Has anybody ever had sleep paralysis? Yeah. Oh, well, good number have. Yeah. I don't know if you found it scary. I didn't find it scary. I just thought it was weird. But I can see where a lot of people would find it scary, and it's. It's not a nightmare, but it's similar to a nightmare. Okay, so 100 years ago, it was World War I, first big war with high explosives. So a lot of soldiers came back from the front, and they had shell shock. It was called shell shock back then. Now we call it post-traumatic stress disorder. Same thing. It's a feature of all modern wars, and it's very stressful being in war, right? The threat of being injured or killed, and seeing your friends injured and killed, and being asked to kill other people, which is not something you normally do. So a lot of people, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a sizable minority of soldiers who come back have a post-traumatic stress disorder. And I got this from the Veterans Health Administration website. One of the symptoms is reliving the event, flashbacks, bad memories, and nightmares. Nightmares are a very common symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay. And it's not just soldiers, it's people in civilian life, right? People who have bad car accidents or rape victims have these. And months and years later, they're still having nightmares. And it's pretty bad. And psychologists try to help them with, but it's a very tough question. One interesting thing, this was about 15 years ago, they did a clinical trial on this drug, propranolol, which is a beta blocker. Very, very ubiquitous drug for high blood pressure. It turns out if you give this drug to people at the time of the trauma, you can't give it to them a month later, but at the time of the trauma, it actually seems to alleviate the symptoms of PTSD later on. So that is not the traditional talk therapy, but it's a drug therapy which can be used in conjunction with a talk therapy, but seems to help a lot of people. Or I think it's in use now. I'm not 100% sure, but I think some places are using this. And then when they told me I was going to do this talk, I did a little research. And there's other people working on this very thing. And there's a group here in town at the UT psychology department, the Monfils Fear Memory Lab. And I just got this off their website. They're looking at this very question. Consolidation manipulations that can persistently attenuate fear memories. And they're looking at pharmacological manipulations and immunohistochemical techniques. So a lot of people are working on this problem. To their credit, the VHA is putting a lot of resources into it. It's very slow going because anything involving the brain is always very slow going. It's very complicated, but hopefully, maybe we'll have some better therapies in the future for people who have PTSD and other things. The other thing is just garden variety depression. I am an advocate of people getting enough sleep, but there is such a thing as getting too much sleep. This happens a lot of times when people get laid off and stuff. They have extra time and they end up sleeping too much. And is that extra sleep a symptom or a cause of the depression? And it's probably both, to some extent. These very popular SSRI drugs that tens of millions of people take, one interesting thing about them is when people take them, they experience less REM. Okay, there's a suppression of REM. Now, is that because the depression is less, so you dream less, or is it or the other way around? Nobody knows. But it's been found in more than one study that you take these drugs, not everybody, but a lot of people will have less REM. So sleeping too much. Deep sleep is the kind of sleep you probably want more of. REM sleep, not necessarily. You need some, but past a point, it doesn't really do you that much good. So I want to go back to mythology because I love mythology. And this is, again, my friend Hypnos. And he's in the foreground, and that's Thanatos in the background. Does anybody know who Thanatos was the god of? Death, yes. And so sleep and death have been paired throughout history, and you see even like the Romantic poets and stuff. This was painted in the 1800s, but you always have this connection between sleep and death. Even the euphemisms, you have a pet euthanized. We say we had the dog put to sleep. This kind of thing. There's also this notion that Yeah. So that a dream is a transition or a window between this world and another world. Okay, and this is from on the left. This is from Arabian Nights. Now, were those stories about the magic carpet rides? Were they really supposed to be on the magic carpet ride, or was it just their soul was on the magic carpet ride? I don't know. Different ways to interpret this. There's also like the stories of a god speaking to people during dreams. This is Athena and Ulysses or Odysseus, and then the Wizard of Oz. That's what, right? The Wizard of Oz. She has this dream, fantastic dream, both a good and a positive dream. Parts of her dream were a nightmare. Parts were a sweet dream, a pleasant dream. But that's a very common theme in literature, that the dream is a transition between this world and another world. There's also the thing that this world itself is a dream, right? You remember the Matrix. A few people got out of the Matrix and saw ultimate reality. And you see that in a lot of things, like the Narnia books. At the end of the final Narnia book, they die and they're yeah. Oh, yeah, come on. That book was published in 1953 or something. Come on. No spoilers. But they die and they're alive in this higher world, right? And, the Inception, right? The movie from like 8 years ago. Remember, there were dreams within dreams within dreams, and to get to the higher level, you had to die in one level to get to the higher level. So that's been a common theme through a lot of literature over the years. So then there's also this notion that connection between sleep and dreams and creativity. This is Vishnu on the left, a god who's often portrayed as sleeping and dreaming, and by dreaming he's creating the world. And you hear these stories. I don't know if this actually happened, but Samuel Taylor Coleridge wrote Kubla Khan in a dream, or at least partly in a dream. More recently, Paul McCartney has said wrote one of his more melodic songs in a dream. And a lot of artists say that dreams inform their creativity, and you could say John Carpenter and George Romero probably are in some ways acting off dreams, off nightmares when they create their creations. And this bug is supposed to be a representation of from what's it? Metamorphosis. Yes, a book I never read, but I like to think I read it. And apparently, I never read this book, but apparently the protagonist wakes up one day and he's a giant bug. Or maybe he's not waked up, maybe he's in a nightmare, I don't know. But there's this notion that dreaming or sleep is a period of transformation, and dreaming in particular is where we test out new identities, and it's a creative period, both positive sweet dreams and negative nightmares. I know I'm a little early, but I think I'm all finished. I can take questions now. If anybody has questions, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I'll try to answer any questions I can.
Sometimes we talk philosophy or opinions at Nerd Night, so you don't have to have a bunch of letters behind your name to have something to say about a topic.
Yeah.
Before we get into questions, though, a tiny bit of housekeeping. Is there someone named Desiree in here? Is Desiree looking for her keys? They're over at the t-shirt table if you would like to retrieve them at your leisure. I was going to make you come up here and get them, but that seemed cruel. So, yeah. And how many people is that your nightmare where someone calls your name out in public?
How embarrassing.
I apologize for that, but anyway. So, with all that being said, I am going to open the floor for questions. And I see one right in the back that came up real fast. What you got? What's the spotlight? Wow.
Well, when we have bad dreams, or when I have bad dreams, it seems to be like from minutia, from day-to-day life, like super unimportant things.
Yeah.
Why isn't it like really terrible things that I actually worry about when I'm conscious? Like, terrorism or ritualism, religious conflict or financial issues.
Why do we dream about things that don't necessarily connect to our everyday lives? And particularly, why do we have nightmares about things that aren't necessarily our conscious concerns?
Yeah, I don't know. I have the same thing, and it is our daily lives. Isn't it really our daily lives? It's not terrorism. It's kind of stuff you might go to the office or whatever, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, again, Freud had these theory of dreams in which nobody pays any attention to anymore. I've never found any plausible explanation of what the content of our dream, what forms the content of our dream. Obviously, our day-to-day lives do matter. If you grew up speaking English, you're going to dream in English. You're not going to dream in Chinese. So what we're taking it out of our real lives. But what drives a dream, and why you have a good dream one night, a sweet dream one night, a nightmare the next night? There's no apparent reason for that, and I.
All right, next up, what you got over here?
So, dreams, along the theory that dreams can be healing to the psyche.
Yeah.
If you are a lucid dreamer, I've heard that you're able to intercept a nightmare, and it can still be healing, like it can be more healing than the nightmare itself. What do you make of that theory?
To rephrase and see if I get the essence of this. What about lucid dreaming and taking control of nightmares?
Yeah. So lucid dreaming is a body hack a lot of people do, or at least try to do, where they try to become aware during the dream that they're dreaming and control the dream. It's my understanding. Again, I've concentrated more on the science side of things. I've never seen any serious science about lucid dreaming. I don't know if it really works. But if it does, I guess it could be a form of self-therapy, self-psychotherapy. But I really don't have a whole lot to say about that. I've never seen any serious neuroscientists talk about lucid dreaming.
Okay, towards the back.
Yeah. No.
Let me rephrase real fast. Sorry, it's for the cameras. So, is there any science about why some people remember their dreams more vividly than others?
Yeah, that only appears to be a function of how fast you wake up. If you wake up very rapidly from REM, you're probably going to remember dreams. First of all, I hope I didn't give the impression that all REM. That you're always dreaming when you're in REM. That's not always true. Experimenters will wake people up during REM. Most of the time, they will report experiencing a dream, but not always. It really appears to be a function of how fast you wake up and how quick you can come to kind of consciousness. Some people have sleep inertia and have a hard time waking up. Others people bound right out of bed. But that's all it is. It's nothing complicated. It doesn't mean, if you don't remember your dreams, it doesn't mean you're not a good dreamer. You're not as vivid a dreamer as people who do remember them. It's just.
All right, let's see. Do we have any more? Yes.
Let's say you wanted to not have dreams. You just make yourself not go into REM sleep.
Yeah. No.
I missed some of that, but just to make sure, was the question, what do you do if you don't want to have dreams? All right. So let's just spitballing here. What happens if you don't dream?
Yeah. No. There are cases in the medical literature of people who have had brain damage and don't have REM, and they're actually okay. They don't go psychotic or anything. But that's pretty rare. I short of keeping monitor on your body and having it wake you up when you go into REM, I don't know how you would do that. I guess you could actually monitor things so you'd wake up during REM and then go back to sleep somehow. But I mean, wake up when you hit REM. So you'd only be sleeping for like an hour or hour and 15 minutes at a time, which would be tough. But if you're just going to go to bed normally and sleep 7 hours, I don't think you could stop yourself from going into REM. So.
All right, who else do we have? We have a couple of people over in this section. Front row.
So I have a question.
So if your loved one or someone passes away, why do they show up in your dreams?
Yeah. Do you want to? Oh, well. If your loved one, if somebody passed away, why do you sometimes dream about loved ones and stuff? Well, actually, it's interesting in kind of literature that's a very common motif where your ancestors will appear in your dreams and give you advice and that kind of stuff. Again, that's just more psychology than I'm into. I don't know why that happens, but that does happen to a lot of people. That's all I can say.
All right, I think we have time for one or two more. So I see gesticulations. Who's being gesticulated at? Just, say it. Just do it. Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about this giving the first thought and
I missed a little bit of that. Did you catch it? Rephrase if you would.
A lot of people feel like they're falling in a dream. Yeah, I've read a lot about that too. And that's probably where the origin of falling asleep comes from. I don't know. That's a very common experience. A lot of people experience. There's no physiological reason though that I'm aware of. Let me say this, by the way, since some of you might be interested in this. If you know anybody in their 20s who's really ambitious about doing a career in research in human biology, I think sleep is a great place to research. There's so much unknown about it. I hate to come up here and tell you I don't know the answers, but I honestly don't know the answers. And believe me, I've looked at a lot of scientific papers about sleep. Even a neurologist or neuroscientist would not be able to answer some of these questions. There's so much unknown, and there's so much to be discovered. I really think it's a fascinating area, sleep and dreams, and also. So if you know anybody who's interested in that kind of thing, tell them to get on it, and because they get a long, fruitful career. There's so much to be discovered here, and most of what is known about sleep has, as I say, been discovered in the last 30 years. So there's a lot of terra incognita here. So.
Okay, I have a question for you. Since you're a sleep person, do people? I guess this is a two-parter, which is breaking our own house rules. Do people tell you about their dreams quite often?
No.
Oh, damn it. All right. Well, that's what I get for breaking rules. All right, so we got room for one more back row corner.
I'll apologize if I missed the connection. You mentioned PTSD earlier. I have certain recurring quote-unquote dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Are those REM dreams, or are those recurring memories while I'm in the in-between state?
For people who have PTSD, if they're having recurring dreams, are those memories or are they REM dreams?
Correct.
Yeah, I would say they're dreams. If they seem like a dream to you, they're a dream, right? That's a subjective thing, and only you can answer that. Do they feel like other dreams?
Well, I guess I asked because I don't feel rested that way.
Yeah.
Even with known REM dreams, when I wake up, I still feel like I've been in REM and I've gotten rest.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. My understanding is the people with PTSD, the nightmares are the same as any other dream, and same as any other nightmares. Now there are I've read about flashbacks that people have when they're awake, but you don't feel like that's what's happening. Is that right? Do you feel like it's actually a dream, or you don't know?
Yeah, they feel like dreams.
Yeah.
But I don't have the same
Yeah. Again, I'm not a therapist, but that sounds to me like a dream. Yeah.
All right, y'all. Big round of applause, yeah?
Thank you.